joining us on the Contenders stage to discuss this beautiful film. Please welcome the film's writer and director, Kenneth Branagh. I'll put you right here, Ken. As Buddy, the film's young A-lister in the making, Jude Hill. As Buddy's Ma and Pa, please welcome Katrina Balfe and Jamie Dornan. And joining us virtually, the man that plays Buddy's grandfather in the film, please welcome the great Ciarán Hinds. There he is. So let's start with a look at a trailer for this beautiful film. That's a wonderful trailer. Ken, you know, as I said in my intro, I think you've done your career, a good word for your career is disparate. You've made a huge variation of films. You've explored many different aspects of storytelling and Shakespeare and everything. It's just been extraordinary. But this is something completely new for you. And I wanted to ask, what prompted this examination at this time? Why did you want to tell the story of your youth now?
Well, I felt for a long time that I wanted to write something about Belfast. I sometimes thought that perhaps there was a story about my grandparents, but when it came to the beginning of the time we've all been through, lockdown, I started to feel as though in a way the first lockdown that I experienced, which was here in Belfast, when suddenly after this very violent change, the street was sealed at either end by two barricades. It essentially became a kind of fortress. That was this atmosphere of introspection that I think I felt, and quieter in every sense. The aeroplanes weren't flying, and everything was sending you, at least in my case, it was sending you inside and to an interior place where I suppose I wanted to get back in touch with my 9-year-old self, and to try and understand a little about what that family was going through, what families can go through in times of great change when they have to make very, very important decisions involving sacrifice in the midst of potential danger, and somehow still find a way to somehow, whenever they can, keep it light and to laugh.
I wonder, was it an experience of kind of revelation for you digging into it? Because, I mean, you know, as you say, you were 9 when you left Belfast, and a 9-year-old sees what's going on from a very particular perspective. Were you surprised by some of the things you learned about yourself, about that history, as you were digging into it?
It was a constant process of discovery, really. You know, you're looking at something with 50 years of distance through a 9-year-old's eyes, so there's no objective truth. There's just what you hope is an emotional truth and a series of very vivid moments, including the moments when you had started to become aware of a real escape that you could go to, which was films, movies, going to the cinema, watching films on television, etc. But all of it, which I was really, really happy about, took on its own life because all of these distinguished colleagues contributed an enormous amount to it, including some lines, some of the best lines, which I'm not prepared to admit to in terms of what they are, but they came up with some crackers, and I'm very grateful for them. Thank you very much. And so, yes, it became something else that I hoped and prayed for, which was that from out of something specific in Belfast, something universal might be possible to be recognised, and that's been, for the few people who've seen it so far, we've really been thrilled that element seems to be at play.
Well, Ciarán, I wondered what the experience was like for you of picking up this script, of reading this story, because I mean, you would have been not too much older than Ken was at the time.
That's a very kind way of putting it.
I'm a suave man. What can I say?
When Ken sent me the script, it's one of those times when you're writing, you seem to understand deeply in your own story, because You've not gone through exactly the same experience, but it's been as close as that. And these people that Ken had written about, I understood immediately, and I felt for them. And between the wit and the warmth, and I understood that how important it was to Ken, this homage to his hometown and the memory of all those people that are around who's been given his life. And for me, for some people, I'm sentimentalized in this direction, but to me, it's just smack absolute truth and straight from the core of the heart. So it did.
Well, and you know, I don't mean to embarrass him. He's sat to my left, but I think we can all agree in this audience that we have on our stage one of the finest actors, more than one of the finest actors in the country and in the world. But Ken, I have to ask, you know, when you're casting a young actor to play the young version of yourself, how do you come up with this great A-lister in the making that we have sat here?
Jude was a very patient young man, because I don't know if you know all the figures here, so forgive me. You might be thrilled, you might be annoyed. But there were 300 people who submitted tapes, and then that became 150 after a second round, and then it became 100, then 60, then 12, then 6. And it was when we got down to the last 6 that Jude and I met. And you know, one of the things you're looking for is somebody who listens well, and also we were very lucky that Lewis McCaskey, who plays Will, his brother in the film Alas Can't Be Here Today, wonderful young actor, we were able to put the two of them together and see whether there was a kind of spark between them, and there was. And so combination of being able to be prepared enough but also playful and not get too sort of thrown by the process, and whether that was your best performance or ever, of all, of looking like you hadn't been thrown by the process, I felt like I was meeting somebody who was respectful and prepared, but enjoying it, and we wanted all of those things.
Well, Jude, tell me what it was like for you to hear that you landed the role, and what it was like to kind of step on set of this big film that was like all resting on your shoulders, no pressure.
Well, I remember we did rehearsals the week before starting filming, just so we could get to know each other, all the different cast. And that was pretty much the first time I met the other cast members, and they were such nice people. And they were just
You have to say that, don't you?
Don't tell them. But they were really funny, and yeah, as soon as we met, I just felt like with every one of them that we were just like one big family by the end of it. And it was just really, really fun to film.
Fantastic. Katrina, Jamie, you know, your vision, I suppose, your perspective on this story would have been, you know, slightly different from the period that you grew up. And I wonder what you made of these two characters that you play, you know, the Ma and Pa, and their relationship. There's so much complications and also so much love between the two of them and between the family.
Yeah, well, one thing that was really apparent in the script was just how much compassion and empathy that Ken had for them and for their situation. And I think, for me anyway, you know, you read someone like Ma, and I just instantly felt like I understood her and I knew her, and there was such a, as you said, like she was very complex, because on one hand, she's so comfortable and she's so confident in her own surroundings, but there's such a deep fear of the unknown within her. And it was just that lovely kind of contradiction that was great to play with. But, you know, I think it was just, you understood what was at stake for them, and yeah, it was just interesting to play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Belfast. I lasted a wee bit longer than Ken. I left when I was 19, but of the real, very strong strain that runs through people from that part of the world, you know, and I you know, slightly biasedly think they're the best people in the world, and we all have resilience. Everyone, no matter what era you were born into that city, you have a resilience. You're born with, we certainly thinking you have a good sense of humour, and often a dark sense of humour and understanding of finding humour in sort of lower moments and challenging moments. And again, all of that we recognise in people from there was on the page already, and you know, we sprinkled a wee bit here and there where we had to, but so much of that work was done for us, and we just felt very comfortable with the characters very quickly.
Well, and we're almost out of time, but Ken, I did want to ask one last question, which is, as you touched on earlier, there is an undercurrent of this young boy discovering cinema in the film and discovering the magic of the big screen. And what I love about those sequences is, you know, the bright colour that we get in an otherwise black and white film. Tell me, just because we're like coming out of the end of a crazy pandemic and you know, we're finally re-emerging and we're getting to do things like this, tell me what that meant to you at the time.
Just noticed your shoes, fantastic shoes.
Dorothy shoes.
Well, Dorothy. Well, that's my answer. Is that we colour in the films that I watched when I was a kid. Jamie and I think disagree about this. He says it was always sunny when he grew up in Belfast. It was always raining when I grew up. But so going to the pictures, seeing big widescreen saturated colour movies was really it was in the middle of the 60s. It was psychedelically sort of blowing my mind, as it were, and. When we came back to make this film, you know, everybody had to test for 2 weeks before they arrived. They had to test every day that we shot. Every morning that we woke up and got all those tests and wondered whether we could continue was a sort of tense moment. And I guess what it contributed to was the first time back, we were one of the first films to go back, was that our love of cinema as a crew, as a group, our love of storytelling, our sense of the great privilege that we have in doing that was intense. I think we just enjoyed the bejesus out of it from... don't say that in front of anybody. Yeah, so much, and I think that the love of images and also the love of the communal thing, it's great. I keep saying it. I've done it a few times in the last few weeks, but I haven't been in front of this many people for a long time. So, and maybe you feel the same way about being alongside people, but it's quite the thrill. It's quite the thrill, and so getting to make this film. Every step of the way has been a miracle. I see that trailer, I see all you here, I see us here, I see even the gorgeous Kieran virtually being miraculously there, and it's exciting. So the love of movies ran not only through the story of the film, but through our experience of making it.
Absolutely. And this is a thing that we could sit here and talk about all day, but sadly we are out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking Kenneth Branagh, Jude Hill, Katrina Bell, Jamie Dornan, and Kieran Hines.